Thank you so much for joining us today, Temidayo Taiwo Siddiq. It is a very beautiful day to talk about what's going on in Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Esther. Thank you for inviting me on Impact TV.
All right, let's talk about some major headlines that have been trending lately, especially in the political space. I'm going to start with the general call for impeachment, and I like to look at how the opposition party have put it this way. They're saying that nothing is going to stop them, from going back on their resolve to impeach President Muhammadu Buhari. But there's also been some reactions towards this particular call that if you're going to ask that the president be impeached, how about you? We've had Nigerians give mixed reactions. Some Nigerians say that they do not even trust the lawmakers themselves, that the lawmakers themselves should start from resigning if they indeed want the system to change. But others feel the problems of Nigeria can be solved if the president is impeached. Now, the opposition lawmakers, specifically in the National Assembly, have said that there is no going back on their resolve. What's your take on this impeachment matter?
Thank you again, Esther. For me, I think that is a mixed bag. Do I think that President Muhammadu Buhari should be impeached? I think that it's something that ought to have happened since yesterday. I mean, the security of lives and property remains. If you go back to the history of states and how we came into this state system, this model of having individuals under the state system. When I mean state, I'm talking about country. You will see that we voluntarily handed over our rights to the certain rights to the states just so that we are protected. So if you have a case where we have been relegated to some form of Obesian state, where life is now nasty, short, and brutish. At this moment, you are alive. The next moment, anything can take your life. I mean, that's almost a case where you would need to ask questions. Why do I have a government over me and above me if they cannot protect the most fundamental of all rights, if I'm allowed to put it that way, the right to life? So I think that the government has failed. Talking about President Muhammadu Buhari's government, they came in on the with the promise that they were going to make Nigerians, our lives and our properties more secure. But you and I know very well that, and indeed every concerned Nigeria knows that this is not the case today. So should the president have been impeached, or should the president be impeached? I think yes. But talking about whether lawmakers have the moral standing to call for the president's impeachment, I don't think that that they should have resigned. I don't think that arises here. If the lawmakers resign, so what are you left with? We need to realize that the legislature is actually the bedrock of democracy, live wire of representative democracy. If you remove the legislature, what you have, call it any other system of government. But it's because we have a legislature, that's why we can call it a representative democracy, because you elected those people to represent you. So if you are removing the lawmakers, what are you left with? I really want those persons who are saying that the lawmakers should resign. I really want them to answer that question. But importantly, Esther, I just want to land on this point, and it's the point that I think that it's ill-timed. Ill-timed because we are having very little time on our hands.
Exactly. A lot of people are saying that. The timing is what people are saying, that he's already spent almost all of his tenure on in Aso Rock. What's the point of calling him to leave right now? Why not just let him stay? But others are saying that the process of impeachment is cumbersome, and that it might require a more lengthy method than what is done regularly if we are going to see these impeachments go through. But some other Nigerians are saying, no matter how lengthy the process is, let's start. Let's see that these lawmakers are actually there to do something. But the back and forth is out there. I must tell you, it is out there. Talking about the timing, let's start with the timing. Why do you think it is ill-timed? Why do you think this is not the appropriate time? And when do you think should have been the best time for calls for impeachment, if there need to be calls for impeachment at all?
There should be cause for impeachment. It's not, it's legal to talk about impeaching the president. In fact, I want to live in Nigeria long enough to see that the president is impeached. I mean, the Nigerian president is about one of the most powerful leaders in the world, going by the powers that is arrogated to the president in the constitution. I mean, but while we have not gotten to that point, constitutional amendment on how to resolve the issue of removing or taking powers away from the president, my point is, Section 143 of the Constitution outlines all of the processes you need to embark on to impeach a president or his vice president. Should the president have been impeached long ago? Yes, I want to restate that. I want to stress it on this program that yes, the president should have been impeached long time ago. But the situation that we are now, impeaching the president is almost going to, like the House spokesman said, almost going to amount to wishful thinking. How? And this has nothing to do with sentiment or emotions.
Okay.
Section 143 outlines a number of processes. One of them is that, first of all, to start with, you need to gather signatures of 1/3 of the National Assembly members.
Okay.
Gather their signatures indicating the misconduct that the president has committed. And then you define it specifically. These are the misconduct. Okay, the president has failed to carry out his duty as the chief security officer of the nation and all of those things. And then after doing that, you would hand over that letter, communicate the letter to the Senate president. And then when you communicate to the Senate president, within 7 days, the Senate president is expected to carry out some processes. And then you go on and on like that. There's a part where he would have to set up a panel, request that the not the Senate president, the Chief Justice of Nigeria sets up a panel of people of questionable integrity and all of that. Then there's also the president has to be given fair hearing. Yes, the president has a right of reply. If he chooses, he may honor the panel's invitation. If he chooses, he may not. But the Constitution spells it out that he must be given that right of reply to ensure that fairness is done. And then there's a part that has to do with 14 days. Then there's also voting on the resolution. A long process, about 10 steps. We can check Section 143 to confirm it. But the point is that the lawmakers, first of all, gave the president 6 weeks to sit up. Now, 6 weeks we allow sometime around September 20 when the National Assembly resumes from its annual recess.
Yes.
Now, Esther, the annual recess also coincides, resumption from annual recess in some way also coincides with the lifting of ban on electioneering campaigns by INEC. So it means that as soon as the National Assembly comes back from recess, almost simultaneously, campaigns will resume. We're also having a case where the 2023 election is not going to be an election like any other. You are not even sure of who will win presidency. Nothing is sure. Nothing is cast in stone. So people will need to do aggressive campaigns, especially because you now have beavers and a number of procedures that have been introduced by INEC to make elections more fair. So if you don't campaign, if you don't put yourself out there, you are undoing yourself. So put all of this together. What it means is that impeachment process will be going side by side with electionary campaigns. Which we end sometime for those who are running for National Assembly offices and the presidency, we end sometime on February 23rd, 2023. That's 48 hours before the presidential election. So are you telling me that these lawmakers, who some of them were deprived of their party ticket, had to go to a fringe party or change party? Are you telling me that while the campaigns are on, they are going to abandon their campaigns and pursue vigorously the issue of impeaching the president? Not to also forget the fact that it is the opposition lawmakers at this point who are calling for the president's impeachment. They've not fully gotten the buy-in of the members of the ruling party. So you're going to do some lobbying, make the people in his party to understand that this thing has to take a bipartisan approach. All of these things will take time. In the long run, you are already nearing something around April before you are able to carry out that impeachment. Even if it's a day to the end of his tenure, it will send a strong message. But with elections at hand, Esther, let's ask ourselves, between now and May 29, how possible is this?
Looking at the electioneering, looking at the campaign processes and looking at what is at stake, because a lot of people are saying that they want the lawmakers to even make a move, to even do something. Do you think that this wishful thinking is something that can become a reality some way, somehow, if the lawmakers decide, if for instance they decide to maybe keep, for some weird reason, just keep campaigning aside and focus on this? Do you think it's going to even change the reason behind the calls for impeachment in the first place? Because we've looked at security as a major call, as a major concern, and that's where the focus is now. But is impeachment going to reduce the problems, the calls, the cries, and what is even causing the call for the impeachment in the first place?
Well, like they say, I don't have a dog in the fight, but you recall that when the president was away sick and power shifted to his vice president, it appeared that there was some form of change in the way things ran in the country. Now, I don't know whether it's the vice president's leadership that brought that change about, but it's clear that the president has this nonchalant approach to very serious issues. So the country is burning. The president is in Liberia giving a speech on how to be secured, on security. The country is burning. The president is globetrotting, moving from one country to the other, attending climate change conference, different sorts of conferences, whereas nothing is done. No service chief is sacked. No head roles. No head has been taken away from the security apparatus. I mean, it's just as if we are going on. You hold 10, 20, 30 meetings in a full year on security. Breaking news, security chiefs are meeting with the president. I mean, so if you look at it from that light, impeaching the president for 2 days, impeaching him for 2 days may just show that this president's approach to the issues is what may be the problem, and so there's merit in that. But again, so this is to answer your question about how does impeachment solve the issues. Then the second part is that as much as we don't have time, if you ask me, like I said, I want to see us test the law. It's not the first time that lawmakers will threaten to impeach the president. Actually, apart from former President Yar'Adua of blessed memory, every president in Nigeria since 1999, they've had the National Assembly threaten them with impeachment. Same with President Obasanjo, same with President Jonathan. So I want to see something that will send Shiva down to the spine of the presidency. My own worry, however, is the fact that we're talking about Nigerian lawmakers. They are not as public spirited. Not all of them are as public spirited as you probably may be looking at it, or ideally it should be. So you saying or suggesting in any way that they will suspend their campaigns and pursue impeachment process, I don't know. It looks like something that may not happen in this decade.
Okay, there are other topics for us, but let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll get into those topics. Please stay with us. welcome back to the conversation. Timidayo is still here. Let's look at our presidential candidates right now, the foremost that we see in Nigeria. Let's look at the strengths and weaknesses of some of these candidates in your opinion. They have different supporters. There are different people supporting them, and we're not coming to support anyone at this point. We're not coming to sell any candidates, but I just want you to look at the strengths and weaknesses of different candidates and using, because you mentioned something that caught my attention. Almost every Nigerian president we've had have been threatened with, impeachment, except late President Yar'Adua. So let's look at what kind of leaders are we going to have, what strengths and weaknesses, what kind of people are we expecting in 2023 to vote for us? What are the strengths and weaknesses of various candidates that are coming out right now to tell us that they want to lead Nigeria? Let's look at their strengths and their weaknesses.
Okay, I want to start with the ruling party, the governing party, the APC. For me, I think that the Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a strong candidate any day, at any time, because of how much of political structure is built over the years. You also want to look at the fact that when we talk about political sagacity, he has a lot of that, because this is somebody who directly or indirectly has contributed to the election. I don't want to use enthronement. Election of at least 6-7 governors, apart from even Lagos State, where every governor who succeeded him, he had a large say in who becomes governor. And then you talk about his associates in other states. So this is a very solid politician, and he didn't start yesterday. This is somebody who was a senator in the Third Republic in '92. He was a senator representing Lagos West.
That as his strength? You consider his track record as his strength?
Yes, by many miles. He's a very formidable politician. If you have a politician who has been on ground since the Third Republic, that's since 1992 till now, and is still very relevant, then of course, by all standards, he's a strong politician. And in terms of record, I want to say that yes, you cannot take away his record in Lagos. I mean, coming from a military era, he did his bit in making Lagos prosper in some way. Although I feel like to a large extent it's also overhyped. I'm talking about his achievements. It's also overhyped, because you have a case where we forget the fact that Lagos is a federal capital territory, and that contributes largely to a lot of things that we see in Lagos. But this does not in any way reduce his
Lagos is or Lagos was a federal capital territory.
I said Lagos was a federal capital territory. Sorry. Lagos was a federal capital territory. But I'm saying that it doesn't in any way reduce the fact that he did make quality contributions to the development of Lagos. That's on the strength. But talking about weaknesses, I'm yet to be convinced. Yes, you may say that I don't have medical records, but I'm yet to be convinced from viral videos, from what I see on TV in the news. I'm yet to be convinced that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is healthy enough to lead Nigeria. And then again, the Bola Ahmed Tinubu of 1999 to 2007, who was governor of Lagos, who fought against the federal government, giving it a run for his powers. I'm not sure that same Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the one we have. I'm not talking about the name. I'm not talking about where he lives. Those ones remain constant. But I'm talking about his intellectual prowess. How sound is he intellectually? I mean, personally, I've seen a number of videos where there's a consistent reference to agbado, cassava, whatsoever, what all those things about food. I'm wondering how that is relevant in our conversation, which in some way indicates senility. I'm not a medical practitioner, but it may just be that this man is not as healthy as his supporters want us to think. And I think that we cannot be running from somebody who spent time in London hospital to another one. It's just not the best. So I think that's a weakness for him. And talking about his weaknesses still, I think that the Muslim ticket was something that was done without much thought. Say all you like about his ability to win, he must consider political strategy. You don't want to lead a country that's already divided and you're coming with the same fate ticket. Are we talking about the US, for God's sake? We're talking about Nigeria, where people put their religion above even the state. I mean, many persons will tell you that they are Christians first before they are Nigerians. And you wouldn't blame them. This is largely because of the fact that we've not had a leader over time that has been able to unite all of us under one vision that makes you beat your chest and say, yes, I am in Nigeria. So the spirit of patriotism is very low. Many of us are first Christians before we are Nigerians. We are first Yoruba, Benin, Ishekiri, Hausa, Fulani before we are Nigerians. So you coming with a Muslim ticket, which in many ways excludes a demography of your population that constitutes as much as 50%. I think that you are not taking Nigerians seriously, regardless of whatever argument you want to put forward about that. And so that's for Bola Tinubu. About Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, I'm told that he doesn't like to be called Alhaji. Atiku Abubakar, the PDP candidate. I think that Atiku Abubakar remains one of the most formidable politicians still. I mean, this is somebody who has been contesting for presidency for 29 years. I mean, he ran against Abiola, MKO Abiola in 1992, the SDP presidential primaries. He came third, and he was also a front runner to become vice presidential candidate to MKO Abiola, even though he was not picked in the long run. This is somebody who also went on in 1998 to run for governorship of Adamawa State. He won the election until former President Olusegun Obasanjo picked him as his running mate. He also comes from the People's Democratic Movement, a very solid structure that was vetted by late Shehu Musa Yar'Adua, the vice president to Olusegun Obasanjo when he was military leader. So very solid political experience. He knows all that it takes to be a politician, even though we cannot say the same for his presidential ambitions so far. So I don't think it's anybody, Atiku is somebody that we should take lightly. However, it seems like the emergence of the Labour Party candidate may have compounded the fate of the PDP in the forthcoming election.
How is that? And how is that?
Yes, how is this an issue? So you have, I just came in from Port Harcourt yesterday, and I spoke to many persons on the street. I did speak to a number of them, and I asked this question. It appears that the support is largely tilted towards the Labour Party candidate in Rivers State. I'm using Rivers State as an example. And Rivers State has a huge number, among the top 5 states in Nigeria with the highest number of voters. And it's the same thing in many South, and Southeast states, which is traditionally the stronghold of the PDP. And so if Atiku was relying on the structure of the PDP to win the election, with Peter Obi's entrance into the race, then there's huge challenge about how he's going to garner enough votes there. Then go to the North Central. The North Central may also not be going towards the way of the PDP. And then take that go away from the North Central and go to the Northeast where Atiku comes from. Tinubu's running mate, Kashim Shettima, is from Borno, a former Borno governor in the Northeast. And then go to the Northwest, where you would have said the Northerners will choose Atiku over any other person. Kwankwaso from the NNPP is a candidate in the race, and it's not somebody you can push over. He may not win the election, but of course, he will take a good chunk of votes from Atiku. So I think the Atiku candidacy, we can't say much about it for now. But if he is relying on anything, he'll probably be relying on the PDP structure. And then maybe some Northern voters who will want to put their sentiments forward, as we've seen in the past. And then for Peter Obi remains the number one candidate on social media. Number two, he remains the most popular candidate among young people, regardless of whatever you are going to say. Again, I've been to a couple of states in the last few weeks, 10, 11 weeks to there, but including the Federal Capital Territory. And I get to find out from people. Yes, you may say that it's a limited poll, random sampling, but I also hold a show. I've said this before on this program, that we see people come every time and they say, it appears that Peter Obi is the candidate to beat. What is Peter Obi's strength? Peter Obi is not in his 70s like we have the current president, like we have Atiku and Tinubu. Peter Obi is in his 60s, 61 for that matter, and then his running mate is in his 40s, or sorry, in his 50s. And then when you look at it from that point, it will look like Nigerians want a breath of fresh air. I remember speaking to a driver in Port Harcourt who said, the truth is that people just want a breath of fresh air. And then there's also the fact that majority of our woes are current, whether you talk about dollar exchange rate, excess crude account, all of the issues you want to talk about, they are majorly economic. And this is somebody who, over time, has proven to be, to a large extent, sound with knowledge of economics. So I think that these are major things that stand out for him. And again, you must also look at the fact that Nigerians believe that because it does not even have a structure, it's not going to have to compromise, please a lot of people. And this will go a long way in helping us out of the dungeon that we are now, economically and security-wise.
Let me ask, is that not a weakness? Looking that there is no structure, there are no governors, there are no members of the House of Representatives to say that he has in that number, is that not a weakness?
Esther, you need to see the recent data that was released by INEC about voters registration. About 12 million plus people were added to the voters register. We have about 96 million, about 96 million from what used to exist in 2019. And the bulk of this, over 70% of the voters are young people. So if a candidate resonates largely with the young people, they believe that this person is, in quotes, the person that will bring us out of the dungeon. You can bet that that will help him a long way. But his weakness is what I want to talk about quickly. And Peter Obi's weakness at this time, I feel like, is the fact that it's not really made much inroad into the North. And the constitutional provision to be elected president remains two major criteria. One, you get the plurality of votes, majority of votes cast in all the states among all the candidates. In this case, about 18 of them are running. So it must be the one that has the highest number of votes. And then secondly, which is also very critical, is the spread, which means that Peter Obi and the Labour Party would need to work very hard to ensure that they get 25% of the votes in 2/3 of the states. Do your mathematics, 2/3 of the states out of 36 and the Federal Capital Territory comes to about 24 states. Now, if we give Peter Obi, for example, the 6 states of the Southwest, South, South, and Southeast, and then maybe 3 states in the North Central, that comes to about 11 in South, South, and Southeast, and then 3 in the North Central, that comes to about 15 states. So do you think that he will be able to be elected president? That may eventually, if a runoff is even going to be done where nobody can meet this criteria, it might be knocked off in the first ballot. And then we will not have the candidates with 2 major votes, majority of votes. So this is something that a lot of people are not looking at yet. But I believe that the Peter Obi is working very hard from what I see to ensure that he covers up some of these gaps.
In 1 minute, let's talk about Kwakwan. So his strengths, weaknesses. I know you said that in passing, but let's also add that. Do you think that there's something he's got that he can bring to the table to at least convince people that he's the right person?
Honestly, with all due respect to Rabi Musa Kwakwan, so I don't think that he stands a chance at all.
Let's talk about strength. Does he have any strength at all?
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. He has a strength because he is largely popular among the young people in the North, especially the Northwest. And even in the Northwest, I want to go specifically to Kano and a few other states around Kano because of the policies that he carried out when he was governor of Kano for 2 terms. But I just want to say that where Kwankwanso's relevance will eventually come in is in the event that you don't have an outright winner from the first ballot. So whoever he casts his support for will likely be a big gift you'll be doing that. I'm giving to that person.
Okay. So he has a bit of that weakness, but then his strength will be a gift to another person. But let's move away from
that an outright winner does not emerge.
Emerge. Okay, let's move away from that. Governor's advice on leaner public service rattles labor and experts. Let me read that. This particular story came with the most riders. Cash-starved governors seeking premature retirement for selfish reasons. Move will demoralize workers and affect productivity. Federal government cannot be trusted with payment of severance benefits. Insensitize OPS to revitalize the economy, government urge. Workers to demand an inflation-adjusted pay rise. This part where workers demand an inflation-adjusted pay rise is quite delicate, but the last rider is saying revive manufacturing sector to boost the local economy, experts tell federal government. So this worry is, let me bring a background to this worry, and I wish we could just wrap this up in maybe the next 5 minutes. There are worries that the living conditions of Nigeria's civil servants will further degenerate if the federal government accepts the governor's proposal calling for the premature retirement of civil servants who are above 50 years. So there is a call for premature retirement of civil servants who are above 50 years, and this is bringing some very deep worries. But I'd like you to connect it to the inflation, to what is going on in Nigeria's economy at the moment, the naira to dollar, and everything that has to do with, inflation, generally, the standard of living of Nigerians, and how this particular headline is causing some reactions everywhere.
Esther, I think it's ridiculous for anybody to propose retrenchment of people above 50 years from our public service or civil service. It's ridiculous because, yes, I agree that if we really want to make things change, we may need sacrifices in the long run. But what is the role of leadership? Leadership is to lead by example. And one consistent issue we've seen in this country is that we talk about sacrifices by everybody else except the political class. Why do we still have as much aids to the governors like we currently have? Why do we have as much political appointees to the president like we currently have? Why do we have an over-bloated political class, people who are being serviced appointment, the board appointments that have been made? We pay these people our money. We have over 2,000 boards in the country. Politicians are occupying this, except that there are constitutional limitations against reducing the number of people sitting on this board. What happens to reducing many of these board appointments? What happens to firing a number of your political aides to actually show that you need to cut costs? So we come up with all kinds of proposals, retrench people. We are talking about a situation where you have security issues that have been compounded by economic problems, and then you want to lay people off from their work and send them to the streets. I should also remind you that I don't know of anybody who has a family at current in Nigeria who can survive on 30,000 naira. So which is what the workers are saying, you even need a salary that reflects inflation. So we are talking about how we should be increasing their wage. You are talking about retrenchment. How does it make any sense? I mean, for me, that's why I said it's a ridiculous idea. I think that we really need to take cutting the cost of governance seriously. We really need to. You don't need ministers of states in many of these ministries. The constitution provides for 36 ministers, one from every state. If you have fulfilled that requirement, assuming you cannot, for example, push for a constitutional amendment to fit the times that we are now, they say tough times demand tough measures.
Yeah.
If you cannot push for a constitutional amendment from the executive to say we want to reduce this requirement that says the minister must be appointed from every state because we want to have just 19 ministers, half of the state. What stops you from removing the ministers of states that we have and then just stick with 36 as current?
Let me give you a bit of the details in this proposal. The governors had reportedly urged President Muhammadu Buhari to begin the implementation of the updated reports, which recommended the merger and shutdown of agencies and parastatals with duplicated functions. as a way to address inefficiency and reduce the cost of governance. So this looks like a proposal that is speaking a bit to the direction that you're already stating, but you feel that this is not holistic enough?
Esther, there is no time we are not going to come back to that Morosari report, which wants us to cut down on number of ministries, departments, and agencies. Yes. I mean, we have an over-bloated civil service. No denying that fact. I'm also saying that there are a lot of people in these places whose jobs are, I mean, the agencies are they're duplicates of one another. That's the point I want to make. And so there is no time. In fact, I expect that, for example, the Labour Party candidate, if he becomes president, he will work on things like this in the most sensible way. But the point remains that is not the right place to start from.
Okay, what is the right? Let's maximize. So I have this report with other reports that are economically linked. There's something about data and beverages, the cost and the tax that we need to pay now. But because of our time, let's see if we can wrap this up in 1 minute. How do you think that these same governors can achieve what they want without affecting the civil servants?
For me, I know that in Cross River State, in Ebonyi State, for example, and I think even in Edo State, these governors have a large retinue of aides. Okay. The governor in Cross River does see, based on the statements I've seen in the past or read in the past, he does see the appointment of aides as some form of job creation and taking people off the streets. Okay. We don't need that. We need something that is more sustainable. In Ebonyi, it's the same thing. He has a number of it. And then in Edo State, I remember that at the time, in the 192 wards of the state, he had it for 1 aide per ward. I mean, some of these special assistants, senior special assistants, what are they really advising? If their advice is of quality, as it appears, they're making us to believe, then don't you think that our states will be better than they are now? The governors of our states or governors in our states will be better. So for me, I think we should. It's difficult to wake up people who are pretending to sleep. So it's just clear that if they want to save themselves from this economic crunch, they know how to go about it.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your time, Temidayo Taiwo Sidik. We would come to the other conversations concerning this matter, and we hope that we're able to discuss with better news next time when we meet. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Esther. Always a pleasure.
Do have a great day ahead.